Welcome to GameCube December, where as a gift to myself, I will be playing GameCube games all month long. This week I played Luigi's Mansion, which was a launch title for the GameCube back in 2001. When I first played this game all those years ago, its graphics blew my little baby boy brain to pieces. Going from Mario 64, where Mario's model looked like this horrific polygonal creature formed by stacking rectangles on top of each other. I mean, this dude looks freaking weird. But going from that to Luigi's Mansion was crazy. In Luigi's Mansion, Luigi's model is so smooth and round. You can't find a polygon on this guy. As a kid, I was obsessed with this door opening animation. Mario's hands in Super Mario 64 were just these malformed blunt clubs. But look at Luigi's hand in this animation. Look at all its fingers. It actually looks like a hand. My god, what will video games do next? I love all the animations in this game, like Luigi's delightful little twirl he does when he picks up a key, or the way he tilts his head backwards when he runs, so his nose bounces ridiculously in the air. These animations give Luigi so much personality in this game. He's such a cringing little scaredy cat and goofball, such a difference from Mario's casual courage. I'm pretty sure this is where Luigi's scaredy cat personality started. Before Luigi's Mansion, Luigi always seemed to me like just a slightly different version of Mario to be used for multiplayer games. But Luigi's Mansion really makes him into his own character, and a lot of that is done through these excellent animations. And then there are all the little particle effects surrounding the vacuum. When you vacuum the ground, you can see all these dust clouds swirling around, and when you vacuum up a curtain or a tablecloth, they actually move the way cloth should when it gets vacuumed. It was really impressive at the time. And then there's the interactivity. One thing I really love about Nintendo games is that ever since the industry's transition into 3D, interactivity has been a core part of their design philosophy, and they've never given it up. The settings in Nintendo games are never just static backdrops to your adventure. Your character always feels like a part of the setting, and you can interact with the setting in ways that make sense. The vacuum in Luigi's Mansion was an excellent example of this. With this vacuum, you could interact with literally every object on screen. Sure, most of the time you just shake stuff around or knock some dust out, but just that you can interact with them at all makes this game's world feel so much more alive. Nowadays, Nintendo has long given up participating in the video game industry technical arms race, so everyone has gotten used to Nintendo games' visuals being technically much more limited than games on other platforms. So it's easy to forget what a little graphical powerhouse the GameCube was. Some of the games on this system looked freaking crazy for their time. Like, look at Rogue Squadron 2 and the Starfighters in that game, or at Metroid Prime and the detail in the alien environments there, or at the Resident Evil remake. Man, that little purple lunchbox had some freaking power. And Luigi's Mansion came out punching right from the start. The story of Luigi's Mansion begins when the Mario brothers win a mansion in a contest they didn't even enter. Mario went off to check things out, then disappeared. Now Luigi is following in his brother's more famous footsteps, trying to find out what happened. When he arrives at his mansion, he discovers that it is a haunted mansion full of ghosts. Luckily, he meets Professor Egad, ghost expert, who lives right next door. Egad spent his long ghost hunting career trapping ghosts inside paintings, but now his entire gallery of ghosts has escaped. He explains that the mansion appeared out of thin air a few nights ago. Mario is lost inside somewhere, and he gives Luigi a vacuum cleaner to vacuum up all the lost ghosts to put them back in their paintings. So Luigi cannot jump in this game, which also kind of blew my little baby boy brain. I just could not wrap my head around the concept of a Mario game where the character doesn't jump. It made no sense to me. Jumping is Mario's whole deal. The whole time I played Luigi's Mansion, I kept expecting to unlock a hidden jumping mechanic, but that never happens. I eventually justified it to myself by deciding that the reason Luigi couldn't jump in this game was because the vacuum on his back was just too heavy. But then Super Mario Sunshine came out a year later, and in that game Mario has FLUDD on his back, which is at least as heavy as a vacuum cleaner. And in that game, Mario is jumping all over the place. So as a kid, I just threw my hands up in frustration and was like, this world makes no sense. In Luigi's Mansion, you explore this big, creepy mansion and capture ghosts. And that's the whole game. This was the first game I ever played that was controlled using dual control sticks. And in some ways, it feels like the entire game is an extended tech demo meant to teach players how to use dual stick controls. Because while those kind of controls seem simple to us now, because nearly every console game for the last 20 years has used them, back when dual analog sticks first appeared, they were really confusing and awkward to use. You control Luigi with the left analog stick, and then you aim his vacuum with the right analog stick. And this took me a long while to figure out how to do back then. But by the end of the game, I couldn't imagine controlling it any other way. I was moving and sucking in different directions, a veritable master of the art of two joysticks. But let me tell you about the best part of the game. This is a picture of the GameCube controller. Notice the big green A button. It's the biggest button on the controller, so it's obviously the most important button. Luigi's Mansion is the first GameCube game a lot of people ever played, myself included, so obviously that big green A button is gonna do something that matters. So what happens when you press that A button? Well, here you go.
Mario! 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 Mario!
That's right, it's just a dedicated Mario button. You press A and Luigi says Mario's name. And for the entire game, that's all it ever does. This game is awesome. The titular mansion in Luigi's Mansion is actually pretty spooky. This place really scared me when I was a kid. The lighting is really dark, and the atmosphere is kind of tense. The mansion itself feels really old and creepy and mysterious. It's really quiet all the time except for the sounds of the floorboards creaking and the occasional sudden thunderclap outside. The developers nailed the weird old mansion setting. As a kid, I was so nervous every time I entered a new room, and this first ghost I saw legitimately freaked me the f out. The first time I entered this room, I was so scared of this stupid cartoon ghost who is literally just chilling and reading a book that I could not progress through the game. Most of the combat in the game is made up of wandering around dark, quiet rooms, waiting for ghosts to pop up right behind you. Even as an adult, I have to admit, these ghosts got me with their little jump scares a couple times when I wasn't expecting it. The highlight of the gameplay is probably these special ghosts, the portrait ghosts, the ones that escaped from Professor Egad's paintings. Unlike the regular ghosts, which you can just shine a flashlight on and then suck up with your vacuum. To get these portrait ghosts, you always have to solve some little puzzle or pay attention to your surroundings or interact with the environment in some way. Something I noticed replaying the game, these portrait ghosts don't really feel like villains. Luigi doesn't have any good reason to be capturing them. They aren't attacking him or antagonizing him or anyone else. Pretty much all of them are just sitting around minding their own business until Luigi wanders in, sucks them up in his vacuum, and then traps them in a painting for eternity. I had a couple "are we the baddies" moments while playing this game. There are only 23 of these special ghosts, so it won't take long to go over each of them. First is Neville. He's the one just chilling in this rocking chair and reading a book. He leaves himself vulnerable when he yawns, and that's when Luigi gets him. Next is Lydia, a mother and wife who is brushing her hair in front of a mirror. You have to pull open these curtains with the vacuum, letting a breeze in, which startles her, and that's when Luigi gets her. The first boss of the game is this baby, Chauncey, who turns Luigi tiny using baby magic. And then you have to hit him in the face with these balls, and then Luigi gets him. In the second area, you find the floating whirlwindas, a fancy couple dancing in the ballroom. And when their dance is finished and they do a little fancy bow and curtsy, Luigi gets them. Then there's Shivers, a butler wandering around and wondering how he can woo the beautiful Melody Pianissima. You light him on fire, and then follow him as he runs away screaming in terror. And when he sits on this chair to sit on the fire and put the fire out, I guess, that's when Luigi gets him. Next is the beautiful Melody Pianissima, who plays piano. She plays a melody from an old Mario Brothers game, and if you correctly guess which game it is from, then you battle her flying musical notes, and that's when Luigi gets her. Then there's Mr. Lugs, a big fat ghost who loves eating slime. And as a fellow fatso who stuffs his face with a lot of slime, I found him to be a very relatable character. If you suck up his slab of slime and prevent these servers from refilling his slime, he'll get mad and vomit up some fire at you. And when he gets tired, well, that's when Luigi gets him. Next is Spooky the dog, possibly the only justified kill in the entire game, since he does actually attack Luigi first. When he barks, it annoys a skeleton ghost named Mr. Bones. And when Mr. Bones comes to complain, Luigi gets him. And when Spooky the dog is distracted by Mr. Bones' leftover bone, Luigi gets him too. The boss of the second area is Bogmire, an amorphous, vaguely humanoid manifestation of despair. Luigi sucks up his shadow, then spits them back at Bogmire, and that's when Luigi gets him. Next is Biff Atlas, a muscly blonde-haired Ubermensch bodybuilder who's lifting weights at the mansion's gym. Luigi hits him in the face with a punching bag, hits him with it a second time, and that's when Luigi gets him. Then there's Miss Petunia. You enter the bathroom to see a tantalizing shadow behind the shower curtain. But when you move the shower curtain, oh no, it's a big fat gross lady ghost. Oh, ew, Luigi lowers the temperature of her hot shower with an ice blast, and then he gets her too. Then there's Nana, who's knitting a scarf. You knock over her balls of yarn, hit her in the face with them, and then Luigi gets her. Next is Slim Bankshot, who's a cool pool shark. When he breaks the pool balls, you can grab one, hit him with it, and what do you know, Luigi gets him too. There's the shy twins, Henry and Orville, who first ask Luigi to play a game where you have to figure out which boxes they're hiding in. It's a pretty easy game since their boxes are the only ones that will shake when passed over with the vacuum. Then they accuse Luigi of being a cheater, and they drive around on a toy car and airplane until Luigi vacuums their toys away and gets them both. Then there's Madame Clairvoya, the only friendly ghost in the entire game. She's a fortune teller. So, Mario dropped 5 items in the mansion. His hat, a glove, a shoe, a power star, and a letter. If you bring these items to Clairvoya, she'll tell Luigi where Mario is being kept prisoner, which is pretty useless, because long before then, Luigi figures that out for himself. After delivering all 5 lost items, she requests that Luigi vacuum her up and return her to her portrait, and that's when he gets her. The boss of the third area is Boolossus, who is a huge pain in my butt. All of these boos combine together to make a giant boo who bounces around. When he bounces into the horn of this unicorn statue, Boolossus pops, and all the boos come flying out. Then you have to freeze each of them and suck them up. It's a pain because freezing these stupid little boos is really hard. They fly all over the place really fast, quickly reforming the giant boo, and they're really good at dodging the ice. But with some perseverance, Luigi gets them too. Then begins my favorite part of the game. A lightning strike knocks the power out, and you have to re-explore the entire mansion in the dark, which is now filled to the brim with ghosts, looking for a key to the breaker room. This part is spooky. Professor Egad tells you to look for an old ghost who likes mirrors, which is a pretty useless hint because there are like 1,000 mirrors in this mansion. I thought for sure it would be this room with this giant mirror, because I mean, come on. If you're a ghost who likes mirrors, this is the best mirror in the house, because it's the biggest. Duh. But nope. Instead, he's by this random mirror in the wardrobe room. So Luigi gets him too. Next are these clockwork soldiers who are hanging out in the attic. If you turn on all these wind-up toys and then use the vacuum to suck off their own wind-up keys, then Luigi can get them. There's Sue P, who's sleeping on a bed in this upside-down room. She has an anxiety about wetting the bed. So naturally, Luigi gets his hose out and sprays her down. Then he gets her. There's Jarvis the Jar Collector, who hangs out with his jar collection. He invites Luigi to play a game of whack-a-mole, and when you win, Luigi gets him. This is Sir Weston, a frozen polar explorer who hangs out in the cold storage room in the basement. If Luigi lights these fires, he gets upset about the heat, and you have to battle him while he shoots waves of ice at you. After you melt his ice block defense, that's when Luigi gets him. Finally, there's Vincent van Gogh, a painter who paints ugly portraits of ghosts. Those ghosts come to life, and then Luigi gets them, and then he gets the painter too. As you can see, Luigi is a real menace in this game. Almost all of these ghosts are just standing around, minding their own business, pursuing some personal hobby. They're mostly harmless, while Luigi stalks the halls, chasing each one down. Anyway, back to the story. It's revealed that Mario has been kidnapped and trapped in a painting by King Boo. Eventually, Luigi accidentally awakens these other Boos, who then spread all over the mansion, and you have to re-explore the mansion, tracking each one down, or at least most of them, because Boos are made more powerful by the presence of other Boos. So if you get them all, you can weaken King Boo enough to confront him. I really like hunting down the Boos, because it gives you an excuse to travel back through the mansion, which I enjoy. I really like this mansion and its design, and any excuse to spend more time in it is a good excuse as far as I'm concerned. The final boss fight is kind of really disturbing. It looks like King Boo possesses Bowser's dead corpse and uses it to fight the battle, I think in the Luigi's Mansion universe, Bowser might be canonically dead and then raised into some bizarre unlife by King Boo. Or maybe it's just a Bowser costume, but it seems to have all of Bowser's normal abilities. Like, how could a costume breathe fire? So if you suck up these spike balls, then hit Bowser with them, his head falls off, which is completely terrifying. And then King Boo comes out, which is Luigi's opportunity to get him. While dodging these magic attacks that Bowser's disembodied floating head is shooting at you. After you beat King Boo and return all the ghosts to their paintings, Mario is rescued. And then Luigi laughs at him like a freaking crazy person. And that's the end of the game. There's a bunch of cash and gemstones hidden throughout the mansion, and depending on how much cash you collected, you are given a rank. Which rank you received determines what new mansion Professor Egad will build for you, ranging from a tent if you really sucked, all the way up to a full-sized mansion. Before I finish, I gotta talk about the music, because this game's music is phenomenal. For almost the entire game, you're listening to the same song, and it is fantastic. I first played this game 20 years ago, and this song has been getting stuck in my head at least once a month, every month since then. This song is so freaking catchy. It matches the spooky but silly atmosphere of the game perfectly. Luigi's Mansion's biggest flaw is its length. It's very short. I beat it in less than 5 hours. And even in that short time frame, the gameplay starts feeling pretty repetitive. There's just not a lot of variety here. But altogether, Luigi's Mansion is an excellent little bite-sized, silly haunted house game that was a technical powerhouse in its time and still holds up really well today for all the detail and personality the developers imbued it with. And to be honest, I think I probably prefer it to its 2 sequels. The other games in the series are cool, but neither of them ever captured that magic feeling of freely exploring an interconnected haunted mansion, room by spooktacular room, the way the first game did. Oh yeah. Woo! Wee! Woo!